You can feel it. It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. You can feel it. It's electric. Boogie, woogie. Fuck! Welcome to Circuit Breakers in a special bonus episode before the Portland E-Prix. My name is Dallas, joined with me, Taylor. You know why we're here, bud?
I know exactly why we're here. We are going to make fools of ourselves in trying to predict a driver market that will certainly go the other direction from what we think.
Well, that is just one small sliver of this episode. Really, we are here to celebrate the coming of age for our favorite ERT driver, Dan Ticktum, because he just turned 25. So we figured why not throw on the cameras and the mics and talk about his glory for the opening seconds. But no, you are right. We are going to be making arguably a blind prediction of what season 11 has in store, talking about tracks, what we think the calendar might be. And in recording this, we don't have the schedule yet, but probably the minute after this uploads, we'll have the schedule and we'll see just how right we were. We also are going to be making our grid predictions, seeing what drivers are going to be going to which team, what teams might not make the cut for next season, but that is later on. Taylor, we got Portland coming up here in a few short weeks. Friendly reminder, we will have merch to give out. It's on the screen right now. We are trying to answer the question of what the fuck is a kilowatt hour?
Yeah, we are almost certainly going to have everything taken from our bags and thrown away the second we try to walk through those gates. But you know what? We're going to do our best to smuggle that stuff in there so we can give them out to you all for free. But Lord knows what the outcome will be. So I have done some intensive research to just try to start figuring out and piecing together what a goddamn calendar might look like for us coming next year. So I'm going to do a flying lap here on our predictions for the season 11 calendar here, Dallas. So buckle up.
Oh, I need to get a wrist brace before we go at this speed.
Starting out, doubleheader, Mexico City. I think we might be starting in December. Probably not. We'll probably get pushed to January. Right after that, doubleheader, Diria. Very confident. I think it's going to happen. We're going to get 4 races up front, get a lot of traction and a lot of views quickly. Next race, I got no fucking clue. But I think if they were smart, they would just recycle one of those races that they'd done historically in the past that have filled in really successfully. Marrakesh, Morocco is the one that comes to mind for me. Wild outcomes for that one. Alternate for that one would be Jakarta, but there's political unease and unrest in that one. So my guess is Marrakesh, Morocco. Then, feeling really good about this one. Going back to Cape Town, Dallas. You loved it. I loved it. Antonio Felix da Costa loved it. I think we're going to get a solid race 6 in Cape Town. It sounds like they've been working really hard to make that a strong follow-up. We lost it on the circuit this year. We're coming back. Then Sao Paulo, race 7, confident. It's been a favorite every single year. Brazil loves it. We've had tons of stars, including the crust demon Bernie Eccleston showed up. Follow that up with Tokyo. Tokyo seemed to love hosting the race. Formula E seemed to love being on the race. Drivers' spines didn't seem to love the race, but we'll come back to that probably in season 11 and revisit it, see how they adjust the jump that they put into that track. Then, doubleheader in Shanghai. No one went to Shanghai from what I understand, but I think that it held up to the scrutiny of viewership. I think people watched the Shanghai race. So, race 9, 10, Shanghai. Going straight to Monaco, Formula E's favorite race because they get to shit on Formula One by showing how many more overtakes they got. Love it. Everyone loves that. We're going to whip that right back to the sausage haven, go to Misano, where we're going to launch a couple more drivers to the moon because they have no clue where to race in Italy. They got everything they could have wanted from it, including a curse, a blood curse given to the circuit. No one's going to have fun racing there in the future. Now, we're going to start getting into some wacky choices. I think race 14 will be some shitty circuit that they scrounged together in Florida. I think it is going to be swamp nuts and just armpit hair. And if we're lucky, it might be in Miami, but I think it's going to be the opposite. I think it's going to be in some sweaty butt crack somewhere in Florida. But I think they're going to try it. I think they're going to try to make another Florida track stick. And it's not going to work. So they're keeping Portland on the calendar because it works and it's easy for them to run. And I think Portland will either be a single race, but it could be a double race depending on the final prediction for this. Final races. Berlin, doubleheader. This could end up being the finale. Everyone loves Berlin because it is crazy. It's unhinged. No one knows what the outcome will be. But they cannot lose their beautiful English target audience. They've already done enough damage with TNT Sports. The fact that a ticket to London XL Arena is cheaper than a year's subscription to TNT Sports means that they are basically destroying their UK fan base. So I think that they're going to beg and plead to keep the London XL Arena on the calendar while they figure out an alternate for the next year. And that is my grid prediction. 18 races total. And that is, I think, the healthiest and strongest calendar Formula E could put together with their current shit. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Roast me in the comments, but I'm dying to see this calendar happen. I think it would be fantastic. And we would have an incredible season for drivers to really chase down that championship title.
What's up, you E-heads? It's that time of the show for you to get off of the racing line and into attack mode to give this show a boost. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like this episode and subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening on an audio platform, head on over to YouTube at Circuit Breakers Pod and do the very same thing. It gives us that algorithmic boost that really gets our wheels turning. So thank you. And back to the show.
Dallas, I'm wired after that predictions cycle. But now we have the big moment, the one you've all been waiting for. Our fledgling and probably incredibly stupid grid predictions for 2025.
It's not based on anything except good feelings. I'll say that much, at least for mine.
Mine are kind of based on things, but also I don't want to claim anything because every time I feel confident about anything in this series, it slaps me in the face. I thought Oliver Rowland was going to be a fucking like dump truck's worth of shit this season. And he has proved me wrong right out the gate, and he's my favorite driver now. So I know that whatever I predict, the opposite will happen.
Well, I think we should just get into this. Now, I know we have two different means of presenting our lineups. I have a fun little image here with all of the current drivers on all of the available seats, and also the Lola Yamaha team that will make its debut next season. So Taylor, I think I'm gonna go with my grid. We'll break it down and then open the door.
And I want to preface something. We are confident that ERT is not going to be here next season, but we can't predict that. And it's more fun for us to keep them on the grid and imagine they're going to be there than to say that they're not there.
I think, yeah, for the sake of just, good feelings, and as a dedicated holding stock owner in Neo, which isn't even associated with ERT anymore, I'd like to see them around. Even, as you're about to see on my grid prediction, they might be running a little thin. But yeah, Taylor, I think I'm going to get started with my grid, kind of shuffle some drivers around. We can talk about it, and then you can share yours.
Oh, I'm ready for it, Dallas. I'm so curious to see how you screw this up.
Well, first off, I think ERT will live on, but I think it'll be in spirit. And as long as we're running the show, we will still find ways to kind of nuzzle them in, even though they won't exist, because I think that it is going to be driverless. I'm going to put Sergio and Dan now out of seats because ERT is just no more. Now, let's start with Andretti. We'll just go down the line. Currently, Jake Dennis and Norman Nato. We thought Norman Nato was an afterthought until race 2 in Shanghai, where he actually held it together. But I don't think that Andretti has been too happy with the performance of driver number 2 on this team. And as we predicted in the past, what we've seen with Andretti drivers that aren't named Jake Dennis, they go on and get a TV deal. So I'm going to kick Norman out. He's going to be down here waiting for a potential seat or maybe just a camera in front of him to give commentary. And I am going to go.
Wait with me with his French lisp. I think that this is going to be a pretty good race. Dennis, I don't know about you.
Norman is standing by. So there is a seat open at Andretti, and what I am going to do, because I think that the human AI experiment has been a moderate success, but not an overwhelming success. So I am going to plop Antonio Felix da Costa and shove him right next to Jake Dennis. I think that is a great compliment of personality and performance on that team. Get Andretti back to that high top performing of what we saw Jake Dennis taking the championship last year.
You think Porsche after the past couple races is going to just let Antonio go like that?
I think they are, because of what is happening behind the scenes, behind closed doors in those AI training rooms. Pascal is superior. He's the Germinator. We know this, but I think that they are going to want that role, the human role, to be filled with someone else. And that person, my guess, is the Birdman, Nico Muller.
He's calling it out. He's making his grid a bird grid.
It's the bird grid. I think Antonio Felix da Costa, and this is not a negative critique, he's got too much personality. He's got too much soul. And so they need someone that is a little bit more subservient, a little bit more obedient, and can just check the boxes that Porsche needs to be checked while still having a human brain. Cortex is firing to train the Pascal AI. Pascal's not going anywhere. Now, there is an open spot at Apt. And little Norman Nato is looking for a seat, and he is going to slide in right here at Apt.
Man, Norman he is just a 1-year driver for everyone.
He's a journeyman.
He gets one round. He's raced in more powertrains at this point based on this grid than any other driver.
So, Lucas Degrassi, the butcher, he's not going anywhere. He has very long-term loyalty with Apt. He tried out at Mahindra, realized it was a steaming pile of dog shit.
And Apt next year, Yamaha engines.
Yes, indeed. So potentially more competitive. Lucas Degrassi's been in it since season 1. He's a patient guy, and he is going to look to carve up those other Gen 3 Evo cars with, according to him, a hopefully improved Apt car. Now, we've taken care of Andretti, we've taken care of Apt, we've taken care of Porsche. Moving on to Penske, Nissan, and Neom McLaren. No changes. I think the good cop, bad cop at DS Penske with Jev and Stoffel Van Dorn, I think that stays constant. I think Penske has proven to be very competent and very competitive in this series. I don't see why you would want to change up those drivers. It seems, of what I've seen in social media postings, the chemistry, the camaraderie of these two drivers, they like each other, but they also are pushing each other, both Formula E champions. And then with Nissan, Oliver Rowland, the breakout star of this season, the daddy of Formula E, and his son, Sasha Fenestraz. I think Sasha has one more year to learn from the teachings of his elder and try to figure things out before Nissan wants to shake things up. Nissan's been shaking things up with their commitment all the way through Gen 4. They have Tokyo now as what we think is a cornerstone on the calendar. I think they've changed enough organizationally. I don't think they're going to mess with their drivers. Same thing with Neom McLaren. I think J.K. Penny Hughes is a star that is just waiting to brighten up. We've seen this McLaren be competitive in both Shanghai with Halfpenny Hughes and in Sam Bird, pre-wrist injury in Sao Paulo. I think Sam Bird has a home for the time being. Now he's getting a little older, and now he's getting a little bit more frail. He is dealing with this wrist injury. But Neon McLaren has an insurance policy if something happens to Sam Bird as he continues to age. There's Taylor Barnard, a just stud Roblox player and a stud racing driver, as we've seen when he filled in for Sam Bird. So I think with that reserve driver, if he stays on McLaren, I don't think McLaren is changing up at all.
Yeah, Sam Bird blows it, and Taylor Barnard's going to just say, hold my retainer.
Yeah, exactly.
I got this.
Now, Maserati, kind of a question mark on the team, but I'm going to keep it as is, and same with the drivers. I think the Gunt and Daruvala, I think they want to keep him there. Daruvala he's still in his rookie season. I don't know if they'll cut him that quick. He's shown some improvement, but also definitely just what you would expect with rookies. And then the Gunt. I think the Gunt has, whatever the team may be, I think the Gunt is the number one guy on this team. I don't see him moving around. Same with Mahindra. Mahindra has underperformed in every aspect. We were thinking, and maybe it's sometimes hoping, that Mahindra wasn't going to score a single point this season. They ended up doing so in Shanghai, so good for them. Next year is a new year. I have talked about these two drivers time and time again. These guys are special. They're legitimate drivers, and I don't think you want to muddy the waters with trying to shift things up when they have already committed so much grief and sorrow of racing for this team this year. And if they're at this point in the season, then they have been promised something very special in the future. And so I think they're going to hold out. They'll be at Mahindra.
They're almost like intermittent fasting. It's like,
exactly.
They have to starve themselves of points and success and victory in order to get the gains they want in the future.
Yeah, and then same with Jaguar. I don't see any movement. I think the pair of Kiwis is a good complement to each other. We've talked about how it's been a battle for top Kiwi, most ripe Kiwi. But I think the familiarity of these two drivers, both being from New Zealand, both racing as they were being brought up through their careers, it's healthy in-team fighting and competitiveness. But also this car, at least for the Gen 3, we'll see what the Gen 3 Evo, what the Jaguar can do. But with these two drivers, that's high-level skill. James Barclay, even if he doesn't have to pick, even if he does, keep both of them on and just keep them guessing. So they keep pushing each other, and the team benefits from that. Now, Envision. This week, since the beginning of the season, we thought that this might be problematic. This is the ultimate clash of personalities. Now, they both have employed their own bit of dark magic to race. Count Buemi being a creature of the night, casting spells to race during the day, and Robin Frines with a healing elixir for his wrist, so it stays in form during racing. That's kind of the only thing that they have in common. They're different mindset, different drivers, just different personalities. So I think the count is going to drop off, and I think it is going to be Sergio Santacamera that is going to fill this seat. Now, Envision had a fall from grace, right? They were the team's champion last year, and it was just a bad combo, a bad mix of ingredients with Buemi and Frines. But I think you get Sergio in there. This is a man who has faced adversity time and time again, and he's going to be hungry. And I think he is a good complement to Frines. Frines still has a overall higher finish rate as far as place goes. So I think he can teach Sergio a thing or two, but I think Sergio can teach Robin Frein something as well of how to be a little bit more aggressive and also how to deal with the hesitancy of a potential wrist incident and know when to push it. Because Sergio, we've seen in non-racing qualifying and practice, he can whip that ERT around. So he has some true skill, and I would hope to see Sergio retain a seat in Formula E. And I thought it was at Envision with Robin Freins. And
well, Sergio hasn't yet hurt his wrist really badly. So they need someone on the team that hasn't hurt their wrist really badly.
This is very true. So yeah, maybe more prone to take more risks. Now, ERT, no more, but this leaves, I am hoping so hard that at Lola, we get the attitude combo.
The most combustible team of all time, just yelling. Their team radio can't take it, Dallas.
Buemi and Dan Ticktum on the same team.
They're going to disable their radio communication button every race.
They are going to need to bring the gain down so low on those helmet microphones, and they are going to need to put those engineers at Lola through, basically they need to get them with like hostage negotiators for like police departments of trying to keep the situation calm and make sure no one gets hurt, because this is going to be a fiery team. And I would so much love it to see Lola just take the league by storm and just be top dogs. It's happened in other sports, most recently that I can think of in the NHL, National Hockey League. Las Vegas got an expansion team and then won the Stanley Cup the following year. Expansion teams are supposed to be historically, amongst sports, kind of dog shit. They're kind of taking the bottom of the barrel talent and trying to make it work initially. But I think if you have Buemi and Dan Ticktum on this team, immediately my new favorite team and my favorite duo that has ever graced the track in Formula E.
Yeah, Lola would like essentially be coming in and say like, we want to be the antagonist team. Like we want to be the dark horse team, but also like we want to have the kind of like slight villains on the roster. Like we want to have edgy drivers.
Yeah. So that's my grid for season 11. Those are my predictions. Will any of this happen? Meh. Maybe the no moves, maybe, but this is what I would love to see.
Yeah, I think your no moves are the things that would happen if they do. I think I got a little more risky with my driver market swaps, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, so let's go ahead and make this dumpster fire of a roster that I have built for our 2025 season 11 grid. We're going to just kick it off with Andretti. They are obviously locked into Jake Dennis. He's a favorite. How could you ever break up with Jake Dennis? He's got to dump you. You can't dump him. He's undumpable. Now, historically, we'd mentioned we think that they're going to totally can Norman Nato. And I think that's actually the opposite of what they're going to do. Because I think Norman Nato, after Shanghai, and we'll see in the rest of the season, has actually kind of stood the test of time. Andretti needs some consistency. They're never going to grow their roster if they keep cutting their second driver, trying to find someone to slot in. And I don't think Porsche is done with Antonio yet. After those performances, he actually theoretically should have as many wins as Pascal. Think about that. Like, are they really going to dump him? I think that I'm actually pretty confident for that in the future. But I think that Norman, his entire career, has been a one-seat, one-season driver, and he has had to bounce around to every team. And I think the reason why we see him succeed later on in the seasons at each team is because he figures it out and he starts to put it together. I think he needs to fail twice at Andretti before he's going to get cut, because I think Andretti's actually tired of being in the driver market. They want to build strength coming into this new generation, and they need people that work really hard and are dedicated to that seat. And the Lord knows Norman is dedicated to that seat. Now, Apt. I think they have a long-term standing contract with Degrassi, and I think he started to question it early on in the season, but I think he's actually pretty happy that they're no longer with Mahindra. So he's for sure lining up, sitting tight in that seat. But who is going to partner Mr. Degrassi? That's a great question. Frankly, I don't know off the top of my head who I would suspect to run that slot. And at first glance, I was terrified because I don't know who's ready to jump in. But I think little Paul Aaron, who's currently absolutely killing it in F2, potentially could win the championship, has already gotten his foot in the driver's seat. I think that they are going to make a move from F2 because I don't think Formula One, as we've already learned with Formula One's grid, those seats are slim and they are locked in. And there's very few places for a junior to come in Formula One anymore.
Unless your dad is a billionaire.
Exactly. And I think that Paul Aaron and his commitment to already coming in and racing in Formula E has been a strong sign that they have like a long-term interest in potentially being a part of the series. So I think it's going to be Apt, Paul Aaron, and Yamaha taking on the world. Now, Porsche. I mentioned before, Pascal is Porsche. And I think that DaCosta has done enough to not be thrown to the wastelands. That's important because for me, that team technically has some of the highest output potential of the season. They either win or they podium. And DaCosta just needs to get everything figured out in order to make that happen. But when DaCosta is up the field, he wins. And that's what they want going forward. They can take a win off a Kiwi. They're going to do it. Now we're going to go to DS. And I think when the driver lineup for DS was first announced, everyone was drooling. They're like, oh my God, this is a legendary option, a legendary outfit. John-Eric Verne is DS. But I do not think Stoffel has made an impact with his time at DS. I think he's had really strong performances, but I think DS is looking for someone who's a little hungrier to attack the track in the way that Jev does. So, who is another blonde golden retriever style creature?
Ooh.
Who is also on a Stellantis powertrain is Maserati. And I think with Maserati's shakeup and what might be happening with that team, I think that Gunter is going to get a promotion to the flagship DS Penske team. And Stoffel is going to be asked to hunt elsewhere. Nissan. If you had asked me earlier why, like at the start of the season, why Nissan put Oliver Rowland back in that seat, I couldn't have told you, but I am glad they did because he now has a firm seat. Lots of lumbar support, even a recliner. He's got it organized, and he is the absolute father of that Nissan team now. And Fenestras, who was their young, hot, title championship rookie, like, oh, he's going to have it all, has now been completely overshadowed by the return of Oliver Rowland. So I think that after this season, with the pretty lackluster performance that Fenestras has had, I think that they're actually going to move on to Taylor Barnard.
Oh.
After his run in the strong McLaren outfit, I think he is going to get a shot at the manufacturer team for McLaren. And start out at Nissan.
You got an actual picture of him. I was expecting an outline, a shadow.
Nope, I got an actual picture of him. Photoshop has a great select subject that made me spit this out in a matter of seconds. So I think we're gonna have a true father and son combo.
Yeah, even more so the dynamic.
Exactly. Frankly, this was for me. I wanted a father son combo because frankly, I think if I remember right, Sasha Fenestraz is reaching 25, 26.
Yeah.
And that's just he's still young, but
it's like
I think a 19-year-old can learn a lot from Oliver Rowland.
It's like the Leonardo DiCaprio dating exclusively under 25.
Everyone has to be under 20 to be on Nissan now in order to be fathered by Oliver Rowland. Nissan, I think Sam Bird currently has strong custody of his race seat. But I think Jake Hughes is also feeling pretty confident in that role there, especially after Shanghai. He, I think, has really planted himself as just a strong supporter of that race team. Now we're getting to some out there predictions, but it does have some basis. I do not know if Maserati is going to stick around for this cycle. I think Maserati has probably gotten the branding exercise they wanted and they no longer need it. But Stellantis still got some powertrain support for the MSG Racing, which is Monaco's premier racing team. And so Stellantis has been pushing a lot of this racing organization, this manufacturer in some of their endurance racing championships. And I think that Maserati is actually going to transition to Peugeot. Peugeot has really been pushing electrification for their fleets. They're racing in Le Mans with an incredible hypercar. It's kind of this interesting resurgence of Peugeot being a performance racing program and platform. And so it's for that reason that I think Nico Muller is actually going to be racing now for the Peugeot outfit because he races for them in WEC. And I think he has a strong relationship with that outfit and that option. But with that, in addition, I think that Sasha Fenestraz is going to get moved over to this new startup program team. I think that he's shown enough, and I think that MSG Racing and Peugeot probably will not have the hungriest market for drivers to come in and step in and succeed. But I am hopeful that they manage to stick this team together because I think it could be pretty dynamic. Mahindra, they've already signed in blood that they are going to fail for as long as they can until they win. De Vries and Edo signed a dark contract, and now they're stuck. But I think that there's a turnaround in the future, and they're going to be probably the leading forces of that. Jaguar, no one can figure out who the favorite Kiwi is except for us, apparently. And, they're going to be in a perpetual duel, pushing each other forward. And frankly, they have nothing to complain about if you look at that team's championship right now. Envision. I am going to slot Robin Freins in to Envision. I think that he has returned to Envision hoping for more than he got this year. And I think it's partially because Envision has been really lacking in their performance capabilities. But I do think Robin Freins has more to offer as far as his commitment to the team. It is his legacy team. Like, it's where he kind of cut his teeth and got his start. And I think he's got to return home to the seat. And he's pretty happy about it. But pairing him, I don't think that the partnership has been going well. So I am tossing in Stoffel Van Dorn.
I like that combo.
Someone who's pretty level-headed, has good qualifying pace. They're looking for kind of a lateral step, if you will, in their career. They don't want to step backwards and go to a startup team. And I think Envision is probably hungry to arrive at a platform where they can have some consistency in the strengths of the team I will say I am worried in that neither one of these drivers is a particularly aggressive driver, but I think that in certain circuits and street courses, they will have a really strong outcome. Additionally, Stoffel Van Dorn does not have WEC commitments, so they will have at least one driver when those calendars clash.
Right.
ERT, I do think that they could potentially be on the grid next season. But with that being said, I don't know what the success of it is. So I'm putting my two bottom tier drivers on ERT, and that is actually Darubala and Dan Ticktum. I do not want to see Dan Ticktum fall away, but that will lead us to Lola. And I think that Sebastian Buemi's contract with Envision is coming to a close, and he cannot find a strong platform to race on. So I think he's going to put everything in on Lola, knowing the history, the current team being former members of DS Techeetah, one of his main rivals early on in the championship. And I think they're going to partner him with Sergio Setecamera. And I think there's going to be absolute fucking sparks and fire on track here because they have gotten into it on track already. I don't know why, but there's something about this that feels good and healthy. I know I have some real wild card picks that I don't think will happen. I'm sure Fenestraz will stay on Nissan for another year because they're cowards. But I do think that there's going to be some moves and shakeups. And I think specifically for Maserati, I think that this is an interesting place for them to be, though I don't know how confident I am in Muller being here, specifically because his commitments to Peugeot for WEC will then conflict with his commitments to Peugeot for Formula E. So that could be a pro or con, but hopefully it's a pro to see what happens. Dallas, what do you think?
I like it. I like that. I like your moves. I would hate to see Dan Ticktum because we did a bonus episode on his birthday for him to stay at ERT if ERT stays around, because that's just a punishment.
I don't think anyone else. I think the reason why ERT keeps Dan Ticktum is because they don't know what he's saying half the time. They're like, they have to filter it through Chinese, and it just it comes out. It comes out as like ni hao.
It comes out more pleasant than what it actually is. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though they're based in the UK, but I do think that ERT has, like, Dan Ticktum has been ERT's main marketing tool.
Yeah.
He gets a more, notoriety. People love to talk with Dan Ticktum. I mean, how many videos has Formula E put on featuring Dan Ticktum at the ERT testing grounds, you know?
Yeah, that is a good point. But I think the kind of triangle of big moves that I would love to see happen is what you did with DS Penske, with Envision, and with Nissan. I think if those three teams come to fruition and that's what we're dealing with, those would be some really fun teams to watch. I think it's a good mesh with each of those teams. Each driver in their own way complements their other potential teammate. Mm-hmm. I would like to see that. I like this grid. I do.
Yeah.
My only gripe is Lola, just because obviously I'm skewed and biased, and I want to see. I think if you pair Buemi up with either of the current ERT drivers, I think you're getting sparks either way. So you just went the alternate route.
And my reason for doing Setecamera is that Setecamera has historically always been a pick for a startup team. Dragon Penske, like a lot of these lower tier teams. Dragon Penske moving over to Neo, moving now to ERT kind of setup. He's bounced around these lower grid teams, even though he's put the most performance in at those teams. Right. So with new hardware technology and stuff like that, he's always been there to push that technology and the car's ability to heights that you typically won't see. Where I think Dan oftentimes gets a little more in his head and is a little more critical of the teams and the things that go on.
Right.
I think Sergio has been a larger building block. Like if Sergio were to have be on a team that wasn't incredibly dysfunctional, I feel like there's some tools that he would be able to bring in out of excitement and support for what being part of a great step forward is. Like when Sergio Perez first moved over to Red Bull, how thankful and hardworking he has been during that time of I've always been a back marker driver. I finally have a chance at a top running team. Lola has the potential to be a top running team in perspective, but it will be something that they need to build up and build out. And so being at the ground level for that, for Sergio, could be a really, really strong showcase.
Well, there is a reason why they make comment sections accessible to everyone. So down below, if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. Let us know who of the two of us the prediction you think is most aligned with yours. Same with the calendar as well.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, the shameless plug to our merch that will be with us in Portland here in a couple weeks. But the store is up.
It's going to be with us potentially if we could get it through the checkout and all of that stuff. We're going to be handing them out for free if you find us at the track. But also, you can now purchase them online. We have a full functioning store page for us where we'll be able to send these straight to your doorstep wherever you live in the Western United States.
To 5XL.
And if you're freakishly tall, guess what? 4 extra tall. If you have the torso of a fucking corgi, if you're 6'8" with the legs of someone who's 3'4", guess what? We got you a shirt.
So that is up. I will add to what you had just said. We will be giving these out in Portland while supplies last.
While supplies last. We don't have that many. Yeah. We have enough for those first come, first serve fans. So just find us as quick as you can. It could all be gone in the first race. It's just what it is. But we will have the link to this storefront available in all of our socials in the descriptions. So please just keep an eye out and feel free to browse and find it. We're super excited for this production to finally be revealed.
Yep. And those social handles, if you weren't familiar, YouTube and Instagram at Circuit Breakers Pod. And I cleared Twitter. We're not really on Twitter. So those two platforms for your watching and viewing pleasure, and to get the links to the shop. We have some other stuff being cooked up. So this isn't just a one and done pop-up, turn around, make our money and get out. We have more stuff coming to that store.
Yeah, if you had asked me when I graduated art school what my future would look like, if you said making ironic electric racing series illustrations, I would have probably shaken my head and said, yeah, that sounds right. So we've arrived at my peak performance, my peak level.
You are fulfilling your destiny. Taylor,
it's downhill from here, baby.
Anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, I'm just so excited to get out there. We're going to keep some memes flying out the door so to keep you all laughing. But for the most part, I am just so excited for Portland, and we want to talk to you. We want to see what you're thinking, and give us your hottest takes on the potential driver's grid. Whenever you can, we're here for it. Put in the comments, roast us. Blow
it up.
Yeah.
Now, last and certainly not least, always a shout out to It's Tricky for our intro and outro music, which you are about to hear right now. Check them out on SoundCloud. There is a link to that as well in the descriptions. Taylor, I will see you and potentially others viewing and listening in Portland.
Whoa! Let's do it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.